Welcome to UCF Knightline, your source for UCF sports and former player information.
Hello, Night Nation. This is Andrew Phegley coming to you from the 1148 studios, and this is Knightline 129. Joining me in studio, as always, is
Trylko. Hello, everyone.
All right. Also joining us is Chip Harris. Chip,
hey guys.
Hey, how you doing? All right. We will talk to Chip maybe a little bit later.
Who's Chip? That's a tease.
Yeah. Okay, that works. All right, Knightline 129 is brought to you by the Dever Team, your source for New Smyrna Beach real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Go to thedeverteam.com and call UCF alumni Travis Dever for all your New Smyrna Beach needs. 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636.
UCF moves to 8-0. Wasn't always pretty. They do beat SMU 31-24 in Dallas. Kyle Israel and Nick Patty help us break it down. Plus, are you ready for this? We are previewing men's basketball with Victor Tan of New Day Review. We're answering your questions during Ask Knightline, and yet another reason to hate the Cows. But first,
watch when they give this young man the ball. Every week, he gone! You're not going to catch him.
Adrian Killens again shows up, and more than showed up, because 145 yards on the ground is pretty amazing for him. And it happened again. Again, you give him the ball, he's gone.
TJ LSU dad, what an enjoyable interview it was with him. If you missed that, be sure and look it back up, because that was funny stuff, and he's got it down for Adrian Killens, doesn't he?
Dude is awesome, yes. We've got lots to talk about tonight, like tons. Let's talk to Chip real quick, though.
We mentioned Chip earlier.
We mentioned Chip. Chip, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell everybody how long you've been listening to us.
I've been listening probably since the beginning. A couple episodes in, I saw you guys on the message boards and started listening for probably, I think, episode 7 or 8.
I apologize.
Back in the early days.
I apologize.
These are also known as the pre-trace days.
Well, anybody that was listening back then, I definitely apologize to. You know, I didn't know. I still don't know how to do this, but I definitely didn't know then. I know a lot more now than I did then.
So you're interested in helping us out?
Yes, I'm interested in being your guys' intern, maybe getting you guys coffee.
I like that.
Making copies, I don't know.
I'd like to think we have some more serious responsibilities with this program than that.
I'll take it black with 3 sugars. No. But yeah, so we are looking for interns, and this is how we're going to do our interviews, I guess, right here. Right here, doing interviews. Right in the middle of an episode of Knightline.
Or we can talk about how UCF's moving up in the polls again.
That's probably what we should do.
We may spare Chip for now.
All right.
But be prepared. It could come at any point during this.
Chip, that mic is live, so just so you know, don't cough or anything.
Okay.
And you'll be good.
And if you feel the need to swear, cheese and bread work. So how about the polls?
UCF moved up to 12th in the coaches poll and 14th in the AP poll. We'll find out Tuesday if UCF moves up in the college football playoff rankings. UCF Knights debuted at number 18 in that. A big thank you to all those who called in and listened to Postgame Live last night. I had a blast doing that. That was one of my most fun ones, honestly. I was here by myself in the studio. I like it like that for some reason. It was a blast, though. Thank you for everybody that called.
A lot of calls.
People that called that hadn't called before, and you know that's cool because yes, we do have the same. Somebody mentioned on the message board you have the same callers all the time. That can happen because these people become loyal callers, and I love it that they do that. But we still need those people that listen. I know how many people listen. I know there's a lot of people that listen, so call.
It was nice to hear some different folks, and from all over the place, too. We had Knoxville and Arizona, and that's the part that gets me. I really thought when we debuted this that we'd have people locally calling in. I didn't expect to hear people from all over the country. But there's nothing
to be afraid of, calling in.
And hang on the line.
Yeah.
Don't hang up.
Don't hang up. Once you call, just stay in that line. I know it's difficult, and I talked a little bit about this the other night. I know that it's difficult when you're maybe trying to listen on your phone and then you want to call or something like that, but it's a whole line that people get in when they call. So it's important to just hang on the line. I know it's a bummer to wait, but the longer you wait, the better chances of actually getting on and talking you have, and you can get in first, sometimes. So
it'll be unusual with this noon home game. That means post-game live will be in that 3:30, 4 o'clock.
Yeah, it'll be weird. It'll be really weird.
And you'll be back at Burger U.
We haven't had a noon game for a long time, right? We didn't have one all year last year at home, did we?
But not during post-game live. We didn't.
I don't. Home game. Yeah, I just don't. I don't think we've had a noon game for a while. So personally, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, once or twice.
Before we start talking about this game, what do you think of the debut there of 18th in those college football playoff rankings? I thought you had said you thought they'd be a little bit higher than that.
I thought we would be a little higher, number one. And then here's the other deal with moving up to 12 in the coaches poll and 14 in the AP poll. I don't think that those two matter nearly as much anymore now, because what they show on the TV screen when you're playing, by the score, is the playoff ranking. And I think that that's what everybody really pays attention to from now until, I guess, the end of the season.
But they come out on Sunday, and we record Sunday night, so it's the freshest
information
that we have.
I mean, the history here, 12th is, I think that ties the highest ever we were ranked, I believe, is 12. I think that ties it. If you look at the Chip, this would be a perfect thing for you.
There we go.
This would be a perfect thing for an intern. Look it up, my friend.
See, I'm just instinctively looking now here.
We're both looking it up. But I think
the ranking of 12th, this is Chip's line, but is already...
Chip, you failed your first mission.
Well, improves on what was already the team's highest ever in-season ranking and ties the highest coaching poll ranking ever in program history.
There you go. That's what I was referring to. Okay.
6th straight week, the Knights have found themselves in the top 25.
Chip probably did not get that email that I got that had all that information in it, by the way.
Compliments of UCF Sports information that comes out on Sunday nights that we rely upon.
Thank you, Ian, for that little bit of information. So, yeah.
I'd like to have seen them a bit higher.
I would have liked to seen them at 12 in those rankings.
I didn't think they were going to come in that high.
Because I believe the highest ever ranking for a group of 5 team in the first college poll of the year, the playoff poll, was 13. So I would have liked to have seen us at least 13 and as high as 12. I think that Boise at one point, in maybe the first year Boise, I don't know who it was. I can't remember. Maybe, I don't know. But somebody was ranked.
UCF controls their destiny on this.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. And we should go up this week, I think. Unfortunately, we have to wait till Tuesday to find that out. But I don't know why they don't do it on Sunday like everybody else does with the other polls.
Drama. They want to stretch it out.
I guess.
Give them something to talk about midweek.
More drama. This season is nothing but drama.
It's
especially in the last few weeks. And I talked a little bit about the Scott Frost situation last night on Post Game Live.
It's an unusual week, wasn't it?
Very unusual week. I'm exhausted. It's exhausted. Tiring. I think a lot of people are. Anybody who has gone through and read the news cycle has to be a little bit exhausted this week because, there's all this speculation of where Coach Frost is. Will he stay? Will he go? And then the baby thing for him, that's a big deal.
And he looked tired, didn't he?
I'm gonna nickname him from now on Scott Baby Watch Frost. He looked exhausted.
Yeah.
He did. And obviously he's a little bit more tired than the rest of us are, but the entire news cycle this week was exhausting.
And a back and forth game. Goodness.
Yeah.
Boy, closer than it needed to be.
I got a lot of clips. Should we get into them real quick?
I'd like to hear some of these.
All right, here we go. This is, I'm just going to give you, this is a long one, but this is Scott Frost talking, basically, it's a little, I know people, I'm not using the right term here, but I'm going to say it again, mashup. This is the Scott Frost post-game mashup.
I'm exhausted. The players played their tails off. So proud of this team for finding ways to win in a couple close games on the road. That's one of the better teams in our league that we just played. I think they're coached well. They play hard. We made it harder than it probably had to be. I give a ton of credit for that to them. but we also kind of found ourselves in a close game that we probably shouldn't have been in, and I love the way that our team responded, particularly on defense. At times we looked like us. I kept looking up and seeing how many yards we had on the scoreboard, and I never paid any attention, but it was up on the scoreboard. And when you have 600 plus yards of offense, you're supposed to have more points than that, and that's my fault. We got stopped on a 4th down. That would have really helped to get points on the first drive. Through a pick 6 that helped them stay in the game. I had a chance to put it away in the 3rd quarter and fumbled down there. Had a chance to score a touchdown and be up more than a touchdown at the end of the game, and we got stopped on a 3rd and short and had to kick the field goal. Got sacked another time and knocked us out of field goal range. So we had plenty of chances to make this a little more comfortable, and their players played really well. I knew that was the type of game it was going to be. If you watch them on tape, their backers are always up around the box. They kind of leave their DBs in a tough place to play because of the way they play defense, and they mix it up so you can't really dial it in, but they got all the linebackers close to the line of scrimmage all the time, and that makes it harder to get the easy yards and easier to manufacture some big plays. And that's kind of how it worked out. We couldn't really get 6 and 7 and 4 and 5 a pop. Sometimes we got it, sometimes we didn't, and we knew we were going to have to make some big plays, and we made just enough. I'm not going to criticize Mackenzie. We're going to fix what needs to be fixed. The kid's been our leader and our spark plug all year. And I just saw this thing he still threw for 400 and some yards and rushed for 44 after taking 3 knees. So obviously turnovers are the biggest stat in football, and we'd been really good at that all year, and today it got us in a pot of hot water. So I'm glad our guys found a way to get out. Listen, winning games is hard. Winning games against good football teams is really hard, and this team has found ways. This was a new one, going up and down the field like we did. We should have come away with more points. We can't turn it over like that. We can't give up that big play on the first play of the game on defense. Again, a ton of credit to them, because I think they're a well-coached football team and a talented football team. But our kids found a way at the end. We were in a situation this time where our defense had to go out and get a stop, and then we stumbled on offense and they had to go get another stop. And it shows a lot of heart for those kids to do what they did.
You could hear it in his voice right there, how tired and exhausted that he was.
May not have gotten a lot of sleep. As we record on a Sunday night, still on baby watch. No news yet released, and moving into another football week, so it'll be interesting to see if he's in place for his Monday press conference and all of that.
Yeah, I got another clip here. Here's what he had to say about the defense performance last night.
Tell you what, I'm proud of the defense, Coach Shenander and all the guys on that staff and the kids on the defense, especially the guys in the back end. I thought their O-line played really well. We didn't generate as much pass rush as we normally do. Their quarterback did a great job evading it and getting out of the pocket, making some plays with his legs. But for not getting a ton of pass rush on their kid, I thought our back end held up really well against some really dynamic receivers. So Coach Fish and his boys had a good night.
All right, so, he seems positive about the whole thing, and that's one of the things that I like about Scott Frost is that he stays positive most of the time.
Funny, right, that we think of Mackenzie Milton as not having played the best game ever. 412 yards, his first ever 400-plus yard passing performance, a career best. Obviously, not very pretty interceptions thrown. In the pick 6, boy, the turnovers did play a factor. When they were driving, they were up, what are they up there? They're up 28-17, and looks like they're going to go in for another touchdown. Different game at 35-17, but Akins fumbles. And then SMU goes right down and scores. And then suddenly what might have been 35-17 is 28-24. And it just kept it closer than it needed to be. And I felt like the defense, if you follow us on Twitter at UCF_Knightline, I was typing away and just losing my mind. This is bad what you've introduced me to now on this whole Twitter thing.
I love it. You're doing a great job. Chip, what do you think of Trace's job on Twitter?
He's doing good. He needs to take a chill pill just a little bit.
Oh, yeah?
It gets a little too excited.
Oh, excited is good. I like to get excited. I'm the one that really gets excited on there. I'm the naysayer. I said something. I think that it was about bad tackling or something like that. The tackling was not the greatest. It led to
SMU's first play.
Right.
Boy, that was an moment right there, wasn't it? They go down the field and score like that.
How many tackles did we miss?
On that play alone?
Like 5 at least.
Yeah, at least.
All right. Let's get going on these clips still, because if we don't, we'll be doing these clips for 45 minutes.
Get to it. You're in charge of the buttons.
Here's what Scott Frost had to say about the baby watch. It's another long one.
It took a lot out of me. I just didn't have the energy. I'm glad the kids brought it. I'm glad the assistant coaches brought it, because I'm worried about my wife, and I want to be there. And everybody tells me the first time when your first child is born, it's the best moment of your life. So I've been nervous, not wanting to miss that, and wanting to be there for her. And I told the team in the locker room, thanks for whenever he comes, thanks for making his birthday happier for me. Jared, who follows me around all the time, sometimes I like that he follows me around, and sometimes I don't. My football ops guy, he had a phone in his pocket, and Coach Verduzco's wife has been with my wife to make sure she has somebody there for her. I got good friends and good people around me. I haven't heard anything yet. I came in to see you guys, and then I'll go back and call her. But I know I would have heard the moment anything happened. I want to thank Danny for providing a way for me to get home if I needed to. Bob Garvey also was instrumental in me being able to get home if I needed to. The one thing I think we talked about a little was me coming on set this morning instead of last night, in case it happened last night. But I wanted to be with the team, and I'm just lucky it worked out this way and get home and see it. I hope.
Get home to see it, I hope, at the end of that.
What a real soundbite that was, right? That was genuine. And I remember you talked a lot about this during Coach Frost's first season. Remember how he would react, get emotional for the players? He talked about these players buoying his spirits, keeping him focused when he was distracted.
Right. So it's good to show some emotion every once in a while and be absolutely genuine. This is why I think that he will not leave us.
Yeah, I was thinking about that as I was listening to that soundbite that you've been saying, that you think he wants to be around these kids, and how you hope, at least, that he gets through a full recruiting class. Now, we don't know. We don't know that.
Well,
and there's a lot of angst amongst our fan base about this. And
there is.
When I called you into Postgame Live, let's just enjoy it. Right?
Yep.
And we talk later on with Kyle and Nick, and this is the sign of a program that is 8-0, that is rising in the polls. This isn't going to stop, right? If he does not leave after this season, this isn't going to go away. So get used to this.
Could be, and this is the reason why, if you didn't listen to Postgame Live last night, this is the reason why I believe that he does stay, is because this could absolutely be a dynasty. He has an opportunity to do things that have never been done at a G5 school before. P6 school, whatever. He has an opportunity to keep this thing in the polls. The higher we finish in the poll, the higher we start in the poll next year, and the next year, and the next year after that. And if you do that enough times, I believe, and you maybe work on getting a little bit higher of a strength of schedule, then you may be able to reach levels that a G5 school has never made. And I know that he knows that he has that. He brought kids from all over the place. He brought Mackenzie Milton all the way from Hawaii because he believed in him so much, even when all of us didn't. Boy, were we wrong.
In this rumor mill, you can lose your mind getting caught up in all of this. The one I liked, made me laugh, you mentioned Mackenzie, was Frost is going to take the Florida job, and he's going to bring Mackenzie with him.
That ain't going to happen. It's never going to happen.
We got to enjoy this. And by the way, basketball season, we're going to do a little preview of that coming up. If UCF continues to rise, CBS Sports has them 29th preseason. Tough conference, but a team on the rise. Well, when's the talk about Johnny Dawkins going to be going somewhere else again? I mean, it's not like the guy hasn't had high-profile jobs previous to this Stanford. This is what happens when you're succeeding, right?
Well, it happens when you're succeeding and you're not one of those schools that can pay coaches, millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars.
Is that the deciding factor, though?
Does
in
this
any of these
happen at
decisions?
Alabama when they keep winning and national title after national? Oh, somebody's going to take Nick Saban away from us. No, it doesn't happen there. It doesn't happen unless you're a school like UCF.
But it's not new.
It's not new, but we haven't experienced a lot of it.
But, I mean, not new in terms of this is what happens. Look at the other American coaches that have moved on to other jobs.
Right. I can guarantee I didn't think that 8-0 would feel like this.
I think we have to enjoy it.
I know, but it's hard to enjoy when all of this is on top of it.
I think that's something you got to make the decision to do.
He's waving back here. He wants to say something.
No, I think the silver lining to all this is that if he does leave, which I don't think he will, but we'll have the pick of the hottest coordinator in the country. Like, everyone is going to want to come to coach at UCF.
They could, but imagine having to start over a new offense, a new defense, unless they hire from somebody within this system. Troy Walters, for instance.
Yeah, but if Coach Frost leaves for another job,
he's going to take anybody
he
wants
on this, and he hired these guys.
I don't even want to talk about this anymore. All right, let's get to some of these clips, because we're already way into this thing. And
yeah, that's right. Keep reminding us of that.
This is what AK had to say after the game. It's a mashup as well.
I seen a crease from the tackle in the guard, and I had to get skinny and get through there. I told the O-line, if you just make a small hole for me, I can get through it and make big plays. And it was some good key blocks down the field that also made that play a touchdown. So overall, it was a great touchdown. Everything's happened in practice, and when we execute good in practice, we expect to make big plays like we did today. So we take it day by day in practice, and then on Saturdays, and when we play in the game, it's fun. Each person in this offense and this team, everyone is key players. So no one man in his defense, special teams, or offense is bigger than the whole team. So whatever our coaches tell us to do, we do it and execute plays. And when the ball is in the player's hand on this team, we make big plays, and we got a lot of playmakers on this team, so it's exciting playing in this offense. Well, we have a great fan base. UCF is a well-known school, and it's a growing school. So to see that fan base on a road game means a lot, and I can't wait to get back home and play in a bounce house.
I will say I am very impressed by a picture that I saw of the Greater Dallas Area Alumni Association, I believe. It was in front of a building, and there were tons of people there.
A lot of fans, and you could hear them. Again, another broadcast where you hear them.
Plus all the people that we know that went down there. It's awesome that people are traveling. I think they always kind of have, during the good seasons, and obviously the players appreciate that. He was not the only one to mention that. That's pretty dang cool.
And he mentioned just so much talent on the team. You cannot be impressed with Adrian Killens, but I'll tell you what, I loved seeing Gabe Davis step up.
Absolutely.
I loved seeing how well he did. The 80-yard touchdown, his second TD reception of the year, 97 yards, career best for him.
I can tell you something about Gabe Davis. I think that you really need to watch how good that he's going to get, because I think he could be a prime person to take over that number one spot when our boy Traquan leaves for the NFL.
Which, by the way, that's another thing that success, you begin to lose guys, right?
Yeah, some too early, of course, but he's probably ready. All right, let's hear from him real quick. Traquan Smith.
Offensively, I feel like we missed a lot of opportunities. We shot ourselves in the foot many times, plenty of penalties, but overall, we bounced back. It's a close game, hard-fought game. And, we stuck together. I'm glad the defense was looking out for us, and they steady trying to get us going, And when games like this are very close, you need to stick together as a team. That's what the defense did. And the offense came together, we pulled it off. He tried to not worry us too much about it, but he mentioned it to us. He said, basically if things happen, he want to be there for his son. We didn't worry about it because we had a whole plan. If that was to happen, coaches stuck together. Basically they said, you guys out there executing, whatever we call it, whether Coach Frost calls it or not, or Coach Walters or Coach Chance, whoever called it, you guys the one who execute the plays. So, you have nothing to worry about, basically.
We've gone to Dallas. We've played the game. We've won the game. They're back home, and a new week begins, and the baby watch continues. Who's going
Yeah,
to coach the team and what happens? And
hopefully that'll be over soon for Mrs. Frost.
Yes.
Hopefully this whole thing is going to be over before Saturday.
5 unbeatens remain, though. UCF, one of them. Alabama, Georgia, Miami, Wisconsin. That's still
Can you believe
5 of them.
You're saying
No.
UCF with those names?
You mentioned McKenzie earlier, named one of 18 finalists for the prestigious Maxwell Award, Collegiate Player of the Year. One of 18 named on the finalist list for Collegiate Player of the Year. Only one for the American, one of only 5 underclassmen.
Well, speaking of McKenzie, here's a little mashup I did of what McKenzie had to say after the game.
Anytime you get a win on the road in this conference is big. SMU, they came ready to play tonight. Defensively, they threw some things at us that I want to say caught us off guard, but they played very hard. And offensively, obviously, they're potent. So it was a hard-fought game tonight. I thought our O-line actually did a very good job. I think there's times where there's just stuff wasn't open downfield, so I did my best to kind of like get out of the pocket and see if stuff would break down. SMU is the #1 defense in the red zone in our conference, so I mean that might be part of it. They played well, but anytime we get 600 plus yards and only 31 points, it's definitely not good. That's not up to our standards. So we'll watch the film, we'll see what we can work on, but at the end of the day, it's a win. It's another win in the W column for us, so we'll take it. Obviously, the 2 picks. One, just I didn't get enough on it on a flag route to Gabe. Under threw it and kind of threw it right to the guy. Another one, I think me and Trey had a bit of a miscommunication, but anytime you throw 2 picks, it's definitely not good. You got to take care of the ball. Turnovers can win and lose close games like this, and I think we had 3 tonight, and I don't think they had any. So thankfully we came out with the win. Our defense did an awesome job of holding them to below their standards. So it was all around a good team win.
And that does it for the clips.
How about some bold projections? It's not too early, right, to talk about that. Sports Illustrated, UCF versus Ohio State in the Peach Bowl. And CBSSports.com, Virginia Tech versus UCF.
I'd take Ohio State. Wouldn't that be fun?
We talk coming up about the defense and some concerns and maybe some fatigue setting in. And one of the comments on Ask Knightline that I didn't throw into the mix of questions that came in after about an hour ago as we go in from Cost Seg Advisor. He says, asking us specifically, can you distinguish between pressure from a sack and let people know they're not the same? And he... it showed a photo on Instagram of we did put pressure on SMU quarterback. Yeah. Just didn't show the sack tally there. Still, I want to see more pressure. Yeah. Because we thought that this would be the strength of the defense. I'm not saying they have not played well, the defensive line, but it has not translated into the sack totals.
We have talked about this before, though, the difference between a sack and pressure on the quarterback. Pressure, it comes from all angles. Sack usually just comes from one guy, number one. And if you're getting pressure, it leads to a lot of other things besides sacks. And that's one of the things that maybe people aren't understanding, and that they think about is that, we didn't sack him, we want more sacks. But pressure on the quarterback breaks down a lot more things during the play than just the play of the quarterback. Can't make your handoff as easy, you can't fake as easy. There's all kinds of things there that pressuring the quarterback does. He may throw the ball before he wants to and cause an interception. There's all kinds of stuff. So
it is a good distinction to
yes,
be made.
Absolutely. And that was important. Thank you, Koseg Advisor.
Yes. Before we talk with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, tough loss for UCF women's soccer Sunday. 0-0 with the Cows in the AAC championship game through 2 overtimes. Then UCF loses to the Cows 5-3 in PKs. NCAA,
horrible.
Yeah, it's horrible.
I don't like this whole soccer
thing.
I don't like it.
Yeah, I don't like it.
The score is still 0-0, but you made how many penalty kicks? So there was actually goals scored during penalty kicks, but they don't reflect it in the score. And then who really wins? I don't know.
I don't like that it's decided by penalty kicks.
Yeah,
that's the part I don't like. NCAA selection show Monday, November 6th. That's when we're going to find out UCF seeding and where they'll be playing and when. Going to be hosting first round, but after that, it looks now with this loss that they're going to have to go on the road at some point. One more note. We have contributing articles now from Knightline contributor Ken Knuckles, a UCF alum. Ken covers local soccer on the Lions Teeth blog. You can find Ken on Twitter at Lions Teeth blog. And we look forward to more articles from him, not just on soccer, though, also on other UCF sports.
I had a little trouble posting. I was trying to post that to our website, and I couldn't get it on our website. So I put it on Facebook, and I think it went out to Twitter and stuff like that, too. So eventually those will be on our...
Intern...
Yeah, maybe
writers.
Maybe he knows something about web stuff too, because I'm having issues with that thing.
This whole Knightline thing. Is just,
there's a lot
24/7
to do. Yes.
Yeah. Kyle Israel stopping by. We are also talking UCF men's hoops with Victor Tan of New Day Review. All of that just ahead.
Hey, this is Travis Dever, Kai's Real Estate, the Dever team, New Smyrna Beach. Your source for real estate and everything else New Smyrna Beach. Proud sponsor of Knightline and Knightline Postgame Live. Call me anytime at 386-690-1636. That's 386-690-1636. Let me show you my hometown, New Smyrna Beach, UCF's favorite beach. Go Knights and charge on.
Welcome to Inside the Huddle with former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel, brought to you by the Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous. Waterford Lakes, 855 North Althea Trail, Orlando.
The Knights win, though some regression, or are we just nitpicking too much? Let's ask former UCF quarterback Kyle Israel. Kyle, what do you think? Have we gotten used to 40-point wins, and so when we're in a nip and tuck with a team, it feels different?
I think it is. I think it feels a little bit different with how the season got started. The amount of points that we are scoring, obviously, even up to last week and scoring 73 points, those are numbers that we're not accustomed as UCF fans to seeing all the time. When you look at SMU and the team that they are, 6-2, going to Dallas, playing them on the road, they're obviously still contenders in the West division of the American. I think that we got to look at that as well. We obviously made some mistakes both on offense and defense yesterday. And you could call it a little bit of regression maybe, but I think we do have really, really high expectations for ourselves. So it's not something that I think is out of the ordinary for a team during a season where they've won 8 straight games.
One of the things that I want to talk to you about is obviously Mackenzie Milton. He's always, one of the top things that we talk about since he's the quarterback, and you're a former quarterback, all that stuff.
Yep.
Obviously. Do you think that he maybe took a step back on this game, or do you think maybe possibly he's nursing an injury or something? Something changed with the way that he played this game, I think, and a lot of people that called in on Postgame Live kind of thought that too. What do you think on that one?
I think that McKenzie played a little more tense is what I was seeing. I think situationally he tried to force some passes. Now he did make some incredible throws. Maybe the best throw that I've seen him make to Davis for the touchdown down the sideline. That's one of the better balls that I've seen McKenzie throw. So there are still flashes of brilliance in his game, but I think he was a little bit more hesitant. We are obviously able to establish the run to some extent, but SMU is really well coached. I don't know that it's a backwards regression we're seeing from McKenzie, but I definitely could tell, and it felt like that the tight ball game, the defense maybe not being as stout as they always are, that can tend to make a quarterback a little bit nervous when you're looking up and seeing that the other team takes the opening play of the game all the way for a touchdown, breaks 5 tackles on the way there. That has a little bit of a psychological impact on an opposing quarterback. Like, wow, I'm going to have to come out and play my best today. And sometimes that can force you to play a little bit tense, and then you throw a pick six and another interception, and you're still not this. You've played a lot of games, but it's not a 4th or 5th year senior. McKenzie's not. He's still young and he's still growing, and I think that I was just proud to see him fight through that kind of up and down game to help us get a victory on the road when we most desperately needed it, kind of at that point. So, yeah, it was a little bit concerning, Andrew, but I don't know that I'm very concerned for going forward.
It's nice to have as many weapons as UCF does, and we're talking about McKenzie, and I look at the stats, career best 412 yards, and oh, by the way, a season-high 615 yards of offense. If not for some turnovers, right, this was not as close a game as the final score would indicate.
No, there we had some opportunities to score. Akins obviously has that fumble going down the sideline. The pick six hurt us when we were driving. There were some self-inflicted, plays that really hurt us or didn't allow us to continue drives. But some of the other things that I look at is SMU was very good on third down. Can our defense get off the field on third down? Those are some things that we're going to have to continue to get better at. Maybe not versus UConn, but obviously versus South Florida. Temple looks like they're playing better now, so there's still some tough football ahead. But that game could have been won much more easier, I guess. Like you said, Trace, had we not kind of shot ourselves in the foot a couple of times, and to think that we still got that win against a really good team on the road with doing those types of things, both offensively and defensively, you got to feel pretty good about where we're at still.
Were you surprised by what we saw last night from SMU?
I wasn't surprised, but it's probably an odd reason why. Their coach recruited my cousin Tucker when they were at Clemson, when he was at Clemson. And so I had kind of followed them for a while now, ever since Chad Morris was hired at SMU. So I've just kind of paid attention to them. I knew that they had some really good players. I knew about Preston. I tend to watch SMU when they're playing on television. I don't know why I'm drawn to them, but I have watched Chad Morris. I know that he's a phenomenal coach and kind of like a Coach Frost for SMU in rebuilding a program, and is doing a really good job at it. SMU was not good at all, and they were left in basic shambles after the Hawaii head coach was out there a few years back. It's taken some time and coaching staffs to get SMU back to a point where they're capable of playing at a high level, and I think that right now Chad Morris has that, and you can see it in their team in games earlier this year that they were talented. So I was saying all week when people were asking me about the game, in my opinion, I was saying I'm much more nervous about SMU than people seem to be. And all you had to do is look at their record, and they did get smoked by TCU, but they had played some good football teams, and I knew they were going to be ready to play against us, and they certainly were.
Well, it's been a strange week, right? UCF's climbing in the polls. There's all of this, where will Scott Frost go if he's going to go anywhere? There's been baby watch as well for the Frost family. Mm-hmm. From your experience, your playing days, and I know this is an individual thing, but asking you, what's it like to be on a team and there's distractions? Or do you feel those distractions? I mean, I think about the time in which you played, and now with social media, the advancements made in it. Mm-hmm. How do you keep focused on football when your head coach is in the news for so many different reasons?
It's one of those things that that's probably a good question for Nick Patty because Facebook really basically started my sophomore year of college. So I didn't have the news cycle right in my hand to experience those type of distractions. So I'm not exactly sure if I could relate completely to today, but I can relate back to when Coach O'Leary's mother passed away, unfortunately, before his first game at UCF in 2004. We played on the road at Wisconsin, and Dave Huxtable filled in as the interim coach for the game. And there was somewhat of a distraction, but it was strange because it was Coach O'Leary's first game at UCF and my first game in college, and it just seemed very odd. I think that this team, you can see that there's good leaders. You can see the Shaquem Griffin. You can see how Adrian Killen speaks. McKenzie, I'm not sure, or KZ as they like to call him, I'm not sure he's the most vocal guy for the team, but he's still a guy that's leading this football team. And they have a really, really good coaching staff. So I think that, Coach Frost has a huge impact on this program, obviously, but some of the most, some of the guys that are on this staff, I think they do a really good job of insulating these players from what's going on the outside. And you can tell that our players kind of understand that there's a lot of spotlight on them right now, a lot of spotlight on Coach Frost, and they seem to be kind of taking it in stride, almost like they've anticipated something like this coming. And so I'm pretty impressed with how we're handling it. It was seemingly an exhausting week of news cycles when it pertained to UCF, Coach Frost. It's obviously I love the idea of us being in this position because it means that something positive is happening for our program. If a team wants our coach, then we're probably putting ourselves in the right positions. Danny White's probably hiring the right people if big-time Power 5 programs are coming in to scoop out our coach. So it's just kind of an exhausting thing we're going to have to deal with, but I'd rather people be talking about us and our coach than people be talking about East Carolina and their coach, or Memphis and their coach, or Houston and their coach. We're in a tough position, but we're in a great position as well.
You used the word exhausting there. I'm thinking a different kind of fatigue now. UCF did not have the bye week on the 28th of October because of the reschedule and the hurricane, and we got Austin Peay. Are you seeing fatigue? Is this contributing to tackling? I don't want to look past UConn or Temple, but I'll point out that the Cows quarterback there, Quentin Flowers, had 516 total yards against UConn. He threw for 385 and 3 touchdowns. He had another 131 on the ground. And I'm just thinking ahead to that Black Friday showdown in which UCF's not going to have a break. How do you deal with that now?
Yeah, I really think that a lot of those are all great points, Trace. I mean, it's a valid question. You look at what South Florida and their scoring potential can be. That's kind of daunting to look at. They're a talented team. It's one of those games, I think, that for now, how do you preserve guys during practice? I think that I don't know, and I don't have an in-depth look at how, preservation goes throughout the course of the season under Coach Frost's program. But talking about his conditioning, Chip Kelly talking about how the players' bodies were the most important aspect that they paid attention to every week. How were they recovering? How were they hydrating? Breaking it all the way down to percentage and numbers of reps at practice to make sure that key guys are getting as much rest and recovery as possible. And although I'm not an expert in that world, I can tell you that I feel confident that our staff, if any staff, would put our team in a position to kind of, stay in shape, stay strong down the stretch. But it is going to be one of those games, Trace, where it may not matter how tired anybody is going into a game like South Florida on a Friday night in front of a national television audience in what's already a sellout, basically. I'm not sure that anybody's going to be tired that night because there's going to be so much on the line, arguably outside of the Fiesta Bowl, probably the biggest game in our program's history.
What's continued to kind of eat at me, and I've noticed fans talking about it on the message boards and our Ask Knightline questions, and I look at the stats from Saturday's game, SMU quarterback Ben Hicks sacked 0 times. What are you seeing there in terms of the pass rush and the defense overall? Should we not be as concerned about that as we seem to be?
Well, I mean, it's definitely a little eye-opening, right? We've been able to get pressure on quarterbacks. We've been able to force quarterbacks to play in uncomfortable pockets. I think that Ben Hicks yesterday had opportunity to step up, deliver the ball down the football field. I think at times our corners and our safeties played incredible, considering that there were no sacks. If that was a little bit scary, yes, maybe. I personally don't know completely how great SMU's offensive line is, although they looked fairly decent last night. The lack of pressure on the quarterback did make me a little bit more excited about our defensive backfield and being able to stand up to some of that powerful offense. But at the same time, you got to look. If you're SMU today, you're scratching your head. There were some drop passes and some missed plays that they did not make that could have changed the football game in the other direction a few times. A fumble towards the goal line, a drop pass by Casey Preston, one of their best players, a drop pass on fourth down by one of their other best players. I forget his last name, Quinn, I believe. There were some plays where SMU just didn't step up. So I think last night was a combination of a little bit lucky, a little bit tired in places. And yeah, it's kind of concerning that we didn't get to the quarterback because that's something that we've seen our team do. We have the players to do it. But we're going to have to definitely be able to get into Flowers' face a couple weeks from now. We cannot let him sit back in the pocket or get free up the middle because he's a guy that can tear us apart. So I'll be looking for that in the next 2 games.
You mentioned the defensive backs there. What did you think of Neville Clark coming in and playing basically his first full game back and played pretty good?
He did play very well, I thought. It really felt like we had rounded out our defensive backfield. It looked like he was the piece of the puzzle that we were waiting to add. And he was all over the field. He was a guy that you saw on television a lot. He was, for his first game back, very, very involved. I think there were some times where he got caught a little bit out of position. But for a guy that had been out for that long, to jump back in against a team that has some very talented wide receivers and 1 or 2 of them that may be draft picks or definitely have a shot in the NFL, it was good to see that addition because I think that's going to make our defense that much better. And again, we gave up, they were averaging 41 points a game was SMU, and we did not give them that. So we still kind of gritted it out there at the end. The fourth quarter was a tough quarter, and I think that our defense, for the most part, came to play when it mattered.
What are you looking for in the UConn game? Is this what we thought going into Austin Peay, that there's a chance to score points and give some guys some rest? Is that a goal to go into this UConn game? Of course, get the win, but start to think ahead to you don't have a bye week, so you got to give some guys a little bit of a break.
I think that the one thing about the American, it's almost cliche. You hear Coach Frost say it, you hear players say it. This conference is good enough top to bottom that teams can come out and play with you. So I think going into it, you got to have the mentality that you're going out there to do everything you can to beat UConn, and that it's going to take everything you have to beat them. If you're a coach in the back of your mind, I think you have guys that that may be banged up this time of year, that we can't see from the stands. A lot of these, there's a lot of guys right now that have injuries or nicks or bruises, or they're dealing with different things. Could be a groin, could be a hamstring, could be a quad. Wrist. There's all types of injuries out there that we're just not able to see. So if you can get guys out of games and another 5 or 6 days of rest before the next, then I think that you're always going to want to shoot for that. And UConn, based on their record and based on how they've played so far most of the time this season, seems to be a team that we could jump up on and score some points on and be able to rotate some guys in. I do know that you kind of want to see that game where we put it all together again. A great offensive dominant performance, a great defensive dominant performance. I think that our fan base, who, again, we're talking about a team that's 8-0. So I know that you guys, sometimes it feels strange to me that we're nitpicking an 8-0 team, or what feels like nitpicking, but you still have to do that. I think that this would be a nice game to see if we just dominant performance out of both sides. To make us kind of settle down a little bit going into Temple and then obviously South Florida.
A lot of the talk this week has been about exhaustion and how everybody was exhausted from listening to all the Scott Frost talk, and Scott Frost looked horribly exhausted, and he mentioned it in his post-game press conference. How was your week at the Little Greek? Tell us about that, because I know that you've been exhausted as well. That's where I was going with that.
I have been exhausted. For me, this was a good catch-up week. So, I was truly exhausted from having conversations, guys, literally, about the idea of Coach Frost leaving. Like, that was more exhausting to me this week than anything that had to do with work. Because when I am in there, obviously, I'm in a restaurant and I talk to customers, and I love doing that. And I just talk a lot of football. People have an opportunity basically every day for about 5 hours to pick my brain, and I can't really do anything about it. if they so choose. And there's a lot of people that want to talk UCF football. And it was just exhausting to talk about Coach Frost, the potentials of Florida and Nebraska. But I also enjoy it because that means that there's a lot of people that do care and are really kind of excited about the idea of where we're going and kind of scared that, can we move forward with the success that Coach Frost has had, even if we don't have him here anymore. I think that's the $1 million question, right? Right, and who stays behind, if anybody, and hopefully we don't even cross that bridge. So it's just so many things going through people's minds, and I enjoy talking about it with people at the restaurant. But this week got a little bit exhausting. But for Little Greek, it was another great week, and we just got our 5th location locked down, which we will be announcing in about 2 weeks from now. Which we're really excited about. And we have 6 and 7 down the road in the beginning of 2018, so it's been great.
Awesome. Kyle, thank you again for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'll look forward to talking to you next week after another night's win.
Thanks, guys.
Our countdown to tip-off of the 2017-18 men's basketball season is underway. We were at Media Day for men's basketball. We've been running these mashups, Andrew's term, of interviews with B.J. Taylor, A.J. Davis, Taco Fall. We had one with Aubrey Dawkins, but now he's hurt. That's a tough loss.
Yeah.
Would really have liked to have seen what he could have done for the team this season.
Yeah, and I could have played that, but then,
it doesn't fit.
It would have been weird.
Coming up this week, you're going to hear the sound mashup from UCF head coach Johnny Dawkins. We're also glad to be joined this season by Victor Tan, who covers UCF sports for New Day Review. We talk about a lot of topics with Victor, the full interview midweek. One of the things we talk about is how are the Knights going to replace Matt Williams. Victor says, watch out, though, B.J. Taylor, you can see a lot of growth in his game this coming season.
This team has a lot of potential still to see B.J. Taylor come into the season. Redshirt junior, led the team in scoring last year. He's going to be. This is going to be one of those seasons for him to really kind of. Last season was a breakout, I guess, for him. But this one is really to see. It wasn't just he's a one-trick pony or a one-time kind of guy. So it'll be interesting to see how he develops without Matt Williams on the perimeter.
More with Victor on the new season this week. We're just a few days away from UCF welcoming Mercer on November 10th. The women tip off first at 5:30. The men follow at 8. Can you believe basketball's starting already?
How are we going to put this all in over the next month?
It's going to be 3-hour shows from now on out.
Well, what's on your mind? We answer your questions on Ask Knightline. We go in the red zone with Nick Patty, and we go around the American. Back in a bit. Night Nation, now that the football season has started, you're going to need all the tailgating supplies and clothing for the rest of the season. And the best place to get all of your favorite night stuff is Fan Addicts. Please go to our website, UCFNightlinePodcast.com. Click the Fan Addicts logo to find the best selection and best prices for everything you need. Time again for Andrew's favorite segment, Ask Knightline, answering your questions that you post on our Facebook page or via Twitter at #AskKnightline. Edward on Facebook, while there's lots of bending, the defense rarely broke despite not much of a pass rush. How much of that is attributed to the return of Neville Clark?
I don't know that. I mean, he played a great game. Neville Clark did, obviously. But I don't know if it's attributed to him, to his return. I just think that the defense, stepped up when they needed to, and obviously they need to step up a little bit more in this next game. I think they need a comeback.
We talked a little bit about this earlier. Adam on Facebook, with our defense as good as it is, why can't we seem to sack the quarterback? We seem to have no pass rush at all. What can be the cause of this? But I think we addressed this.
Yeah.
They're putting pressure.
Pressure on the quarterback. It's different than pass rushing. I talked about it.
So we may be overreacting a little bit to the sack total number, because they are still getting pressure. Right. Matt on Facebook, why isn't this season getting as much attention from the Knights fan base as the 2013 magical season? I think it's been an unusual season. We talked about the hurricanes, all of this talk with Frost and the baby. It's just been a lot of distractions, but I think it comes from within. I think you got to be excited about it.
I guess with the playoff thing, though, the playoff poll isn't as exciting maybe as the BCS was, possibly. I don't know, but it seems a lot weirder, and maybe people are in shock still, to be honest with you. I'm a little bit in shock. I can't even believe that this season is happening the way that it is.
I think you have to enjoy the ride.
And maybe some people are ready for a big letdown, because that's been what has happened around here for a long time. There's been good things that have happened. And then, somebody asked last week, so when is it going to happen? When is it going to happen? It almost happened last night.
When's the dumb loss happen?
I don't think it's going to happen this year, though. I really don't. I think this is the year to start the dynasty of UCF Knight football.
Finally, in the mailbag, then, is at Skunky Ops on Twitter.
That's an interesting one.
Any rumors or sense of schools looking to hire athletic director Danny White away? I think that's a really interesting question because I think all the talk is on Coach Frost. And you may have caught this week that Auburn's AD stepped down. Danny White is not going to leave UCF for a bad job. No. He doesn't have to.
No.
Right? Auburn's a good job.
Auburn's a good job, but, look at the success that he's having here and look at what he's building here. I think that an athletic director especially needs a few more years to build his destiny at this school. He's done such a great job.
He's a young guy who has found success early on with UCF. There are going to be jobs. There's always going to be jobs.
Yeah, and
you just wonder what his dream job is. I don't know that I've heard him speak to that.
Well, I would think that his dream job would be his dad's job at Duke.
But Louisville, there's a job. There's an opportunity.
I don't think you want to be there in the middle of that whole deal.
No, but there's going to be jobs out there.
Yeah.
But Auburn comes to
comes
out there.
I hope we hold on to him too. He is just, if not a more valuable spot than Coach Frost. The athletic director is over the entire athletic program, it's not just a football coach. So I think, honestly, he would be the biggest loss of all that because, just of what he's done around here. He has made absolutely 100% of the right coach hires so far. And everything that he's done, I can't tell you one negative thing that Danny White has done.
Well, you were a little upset about ticket prices.
The ticket pricing thing, but it's starting to make a little bit more sense, I guess.
Yes.
Maybe in the long run.
We'll see what the crowd is Saturday at noon.
As I was saying that, yes, I was thinking about that, but
UCF Fantasy, Knightline versus the Banneret. I think we're back in the win column. Isn't it interesting, by the way, that when the Banneret does well, they send you all kind of messages about their score.
Did we win?
I'm pretty sure we won. Traquan Smith and Mike Hughes, that's more than enough.
Who did they have?
They had Taj McGowan, didn't score.
Oh, okay.
And Shaquem Griffin, who didn't.
Oh, yeah. So
I looked at the defensive stats, and Hughes had more. And, we already talked about the big yardage that Traquan had. So even without
Nobody picked Killins?
No.
Wow. I figured they
remember,
had Killins.
It's just we each pick an offense and defensive player. Anyway,
wow.
I just think it's funny that they win, they want you to know about it. But when they don't win, and they don't talk about it at all.
And when we win, I don't want to quit anymore.
This is true.
It's all good.
Yeah, they still have some more wins, but we're not counting.
All right. Well.
We're getting the state of the state with former UCF quarterback Nick Patty. We go around the American plus news and notes. So this is a bit of a longer show. Keep driving, keep jogging. We're back in 30 seconds.
You've heard us talk about the great food at our good friend Kyle Israel's restaurant, The Little Greek Fresh Grill. The Little Greek now has franchises available. Please call 407-697-2272. That's 407-697-2272 to see what The Little Greek can do for you. Also check out The Little Greek's newest location at 3131 Daniels Road, Suite 104, Winter Garden, Florida. The Little Greek Fresh Grill. Fresh, flavorful, fabulous. Welcome to Inside the Red Zone with Nick, the Wild Knight Patty.
UCF puts up more than 600 yards of offense, but was almost done in with some costly turnovers. Let's get into it more with Nick Patty, who is in the Red Zone. Nick, what were your immediate impressions of UCF's 31-24 victory over SMU?
Wasn't the most impressive victory we've had this year, but I think one of the things you see from a team is that they fought extremely hard and they're pretty resilient as they've shown times in and out this year. But yesterday was a test for them that they rose to the challenge, and every opportunity that they had to knock down obstacles, they did. They had some turnovers that were costly, and you never want to see that from a team that we've been so efficient on offense, so you just never want to see them take a step back and have those things hinder them. But boy, they stood up to the challenge and were tested well by that SMU team that was pretty powerful on offense and put up some great numbers and did some really special things and gave us some different looks on defense than we've seen this year. And I was happy with how the Knights rose to the challenge, though.
So I don't know how close you follow this win probability thing on ESPN.com, but I like to look at it because it's kind of funny sometimes. There's a little line basically during the game that you can watch, and it's people voting or whatever, for this win probability thing. It never dropped into the SMU side of the win probability. It was always on the UCF side. It started a lot higher, but dipped all the way down right at the middle at one point. One of the biggest things that I see from this, and Coach Frost mentioned it, is 615 yards of offense, which is a heck of a lot, and only 31 points. How do you make that translate so that doesn't happen again? I guess the 3 turnovers really hurt it.
Yeah, that's the big thing. I mean, I think the number one thing you look at with that is the turnovers. If you avoid that, that's 3 drives that would turn into scoring drives, and then you're up into the 50s again. And I think if you cut a few of those things out, you continue to put up the amount of yards that they are. Inevitably, it kind of sounds like an obvious comment, but inevitably you put up that many yards and don't turn the ball over, you have to score. And so if we can cut that out, which we have done an awesome job at throughout this season, and then, yesterday hits and you see where that can come up, and you play a team that's as good as SMU, and that's when it becomes an issue. It becomes a problem when you play a team that can take advantage of those turnovers, and SMU did, and that's why they were in the game, and that's why it was such a nail-biter, as you talked about. And but if you cut that kind of stuff out moving forward, and we'll be just fine if we continue to move the ball as efficiently as we are.
2 things on defense, and again, they bend, but they don't break. A couple things on defense. One, talk about tackling, talk about lack of a pass rush, no sacks on the SMU quarterback, and also UCF seemed to have difficulty getting off the field on 3rd down. We're 8 games in, and you hate to nitpick. They're 8-0, and they're climbing in the polls, but if you look down the road to that Black Friday showdown with South Florida, the Cows, how do you manage those 3 things moving forward?
Yeah, well, I think that was the big thing against SMU. One of the glaring issues I saw is that we couldn't get them off the field, and that they held the ball for a long time, and then we couldn't get into a great rhythm on offense. And then we had some of the turnovers, which helped keep their offense on the field and hurt us continuing to get into a rhythm. And so I think on 3rd down, it's a big thing, as you talked about, to be a little more efficient against a team that's good on offense. You always want to be good against every team on 3rd down, but especially against a team that can hurt you on offense and has a quarterback like the Hicks kid, who's a pretty darn good player. And I think it's going to be big for our front 7 against USF to put pressure on them as an offense, but also too, not as much on a pressure front as it is just to contain, their kind of creativity on offense. And they do a good job of sort of creating offense in an unconventional way. And so I think for our front 7, looking forward to that matchup. It's going to be more important, I think, to have some spies available and some just creative ways to keep their guys in the pocket and to keep them from creating that offense that's not the most conventional of looks at times. And so I think a team like SMU, it's important to get some pressure looks on them. It's important to get to the quarterback. It's always nice no matter who you're playing. But then you play a team like USF, who's got a really one of the most athletic quarterbacks in the country, and they do some different things on offense. And so it's important to kind of put some spies on them and to, just keep it all contained. And so moving forward, it's a different look on defense, but I think that's an important thing for them to focus on.
One of the questions that we got a lot of on the Ask Knightline segment are people are wondering if fatigue is setting in for the team, not having the bye week in a traditional sense, all those days off related to the Hurricanes. What, after 8 games, are you seeing that you think point to some fatigue, and what can you do about it?
Yeah, I think, as good as our offensive line has been up front, I think you can start to see a little bit of fatigue from them. I think we're still running the ball really well and still moving it well on offense, but you can start to see up front we're not moving as fast. We're not moving as we're not getting to the ball as quickly. Maybe a little less sharp than you'd want to be. And on defense, I mean that could be a big reason that the third downs, getting off the field in third down, hasn't been as efficient for them. Is just because you get tired and those guys are worn down. Their legs are a little weak, and especially up front with the pass rush, same type of thing. I think that's the issues you see set in with teams when they have a early bye week or don't, in our case, don't have a bye week at all, is with the pass rush and with, stepping up on the goal line or short yardage situations. That's where you see fatigue set in because you don't have those electric plays. And so, what can you do about that? The coaches do a pretty good job, I think, Coach Frost do, during the week, in practice, just giving guys a break, whether it be getting, Traquan Smith a break with some reps, maybe in 7-on-7. They do a pretty good job of cutting back on that. And, it's not cutting practice short or doing anything like that, but getting some of the younger guys reps, getting some of the Alex Harris of the world reps and maybe getting Akins a couple cut down reps with getting Coobs more reps and Jordan Franks more reps. So, just moving forward, I think they'll do a pretty good job during practice of being wary of that because they're not going to have an opportunity to take any days off or have an unconventional week, especially with some of the opponents we got coming up. But I think they'll be wary of that, and it'd be interesting to see, against UConn, who's they're perennially a pretty tough-nosed team. So this will be a test to see if we're, actually getting tired because they'll test that.
Talk about the impact that Adrian Killens has had on this season. I mean, 145 yards for him and 14 carries yesterday was pretty amazing.
Yeah, he's been nothing short of the word you just used, and amazing. To have a guy anytime he touches the ball can be a threat to score. Just as a play caller, you can't. I mean, there's nothing better than to have that weapon where if you're in a crunch or you got a third and long situation or even a fourth and short situation or any situation you're put in as a play caller, you have an opportunity to point to that guy and say, let's get him the ball in some way. And they've been so creative in getting him the ball in such different ways. He's done it in a variety of ways too. I think it's impressive. Last year, I think you saw him. They wanted to get him on the edge a little bit more. They wanted to get him the balls on bubble screens and options, etc. This year, we saw it Saturday between the tackles being a threat and shedding a couple tackles and then taking it to the house, making one cut and going. That's impressive, especially for a guy his size. He's, nothing taller than 5'8", 160 pounds or so. And for him to be able to shed tackles and be a threat in between, in the 8-man box there, it's just, it's one more thing that kid is just special, man.
In a season of unusual storylines that no one saw coming, right? Hurricanes, 8-0 now, climbing the polls. Scott Frost being coveted seemingly by every school in the country. His name is linked everywhere. Baby Watch. He showed some of the wear of that in the post-game press conference, that it's been tiring. From your experience in playing under him, how do you think this team handles all of these distractions and pressure, and what kind of character is he in handling this?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a natural thing not to feel, and I don't, as a former player or even as a fan, I don't hold that against him or the squad that they're feeling that, and I, more power to them that they recognize it, and I think it's good they recognize it because, one thing I have confidence in with Coach Frost when this stuff happens is that he has put together a staff that is so tight-knit, that is on the same page. They are all moving in the same direction. They have a similar mindset. That, if Coach Frost he's possibly having a child here shortly, and that's something that everyone's going to recognize. He has people on his staff that are going to step up for him, whether it be Ryan Held or Coach Austin, Coach Verduzco. So many guys on that staff that are just extremely experienced and that have his back in such a big way, and I think he takes a lot of confidence in that. I sure did as a player, and I know other guys that are playing there now do. It's just a pretty amazing opportunity for them, and they've done such a good job of creating a culture there of such a family and sort of next man up. Not that Frost is going anywhere or that he's checked out, but it's just there's so many people that contribute there, and I know Coach Frost will do a good job leaning on those guys in time of need. And obviously anyone that's had a child or anything like that knows how much, how tasking that is, not even if you're not a football coach, but then you throw in the week-to-week thing of preparation, et cetera. He's going to lean on those guys, and he's going to give them more of an opportunity to step up. And he's a high-character dude, Coach Frost is. And, there's few people, I think, that could handle it as good as him. He's got a pretty good head on acknowledging things that need help, and he's not too prideful to let those people help. And so I'm sure that as a staff, they're going to step up and do their part. And I know the players too. I mean, they got some pretty good leadership. I think that everyone has seen this year with the Wyatt Millers and Michael Kubialis and those guys. Those guys will step up and recognize that as leaders of this team, there's something to be done. And I have confidence that they'll do it.
Turning the page to the UConn game, the Huskies quarterback Brian Sheriffs left Saturday's game with a concussion. You ever get knocked out hard that you had a concussion?
I never did. I never did in college. You take a few hits that takes you a little bit of time to snap out of it. But no, I never got knocked out with a concussion.
When you get hit hard like that, though, it's in your head a little bit, isn't it? I mean, he gets knocked out of a game if he's cleared to play Saturday against UCF. First time they come after him, it's got to be in his head a little bit.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's something. You get your bell rung like that, and you don't often feel that out of it. So I think anytime you get knocked out of it to the point where it throws you off your normal rhythm, it's got to be in your head, especially to come into a defense like ours and how talented those guys are. They fly around, they get after the quarterback a little bit, and they're not the nicest guys when they get there. I think that'll definitely be in his head. It's a natural, I think, human reaction anytime, especially nowadays. I mean, there's so much emphasis put on concussions and head injuries that kind of scare you a little bit, I think, as a player. And it'll be interesting to see. I know he's a tough kid. He's a good player, but it's just a whole other dynamic that I think UCF maybe dial up the pressure a little bit and play to that as a strength. And you never want to take advantage of an injury of a kid, but at the same time, if they could take advantage of just dialing up some pressures just to maybe get in his head a little bit, that's an advantage.
What are you looking for Saturday besides UCF's 9th victory of the season?
We kind of touched on it. I want to see just kind of how hard they play and how long they play hard for, especially if they get a little lead. One, I think it's a good opportunity for them to get some guys some rest if they can get a lead, but it's also an opportunity to see if they don't take their foot off the gas. I mean, how fatigued they are. And two, I just like to see them cut down on, one, the turnovers, and two, the penalties. Those are two things that I think we can clean up as a team that can just continue to help us be efficient. I just would like to see these guys keep their foot down to the pedal, finish UConn. UConn's sort of we got that rivalry game, and they've always tried to create a bit of a rival, and it's never really been a huge deal for UCF, but this is a big week. I mean, I think with that if there's anyone that ever tries to create that, it's a big week, and I think that's one reason, I would just like to see them keep their foot down and kind of put that to rest this week and cut down on the turnovers and penalties.
All righty, Nick, thank you very much for joining us again. We greatly appreciate your insight into all this, and we look forward to talking to you next time.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Now time for a look around the American featuring C. Austin Cox.
I'm C. Austin Cox from the AAC Daily with your weekly wrap-up of what's happening throughout the American Athletic Conference following Week 10 of the college football season. A loaded conference slate saw UCF, Memphis, and USF each earn wins in Week 10, leaving the American as the only league in the Football Bowl subdivision that has 3 teams with 1 loss or fewer. And of course, UCF remains one of only 5 teams in the nation still undefeated, joining Alabama, Georgia, Miami of Florida, and Wisconsin. The Knights are now 8-0, marking another first for the program following a 31-24 win at SMU. Together, the Knights and Mustangs combined to put up 1,104 yards of total offense as UCF racked up 615 yards and SMU contributed 489. Quarterback Mackenzie Milton threw for a career-high 412 yards, but it was the impressive play of running back Adrian Killians Jr. that provided the biggest difference on the night, Killins notched 145 yards on 14 touches, including 2 touchdown runs of 34 and 64 yards respectively. SMU's loss was the first at home this season for the Mustangs. The Memphis Tigers improved to 8-1 and currently sit alone atop the AAC West Division standings at 1-5 in conference play, following a 41-14 road win at Tulsa. Quarterback Riley Ferguson threw for 298 yards and 4 touchdowns, while running back Darrell Henderson rushed for 123 yards on 14 carries. Also sitting at 8-1 is USF in the East after the Bulls scored a 37-20 win over the Huskies at UConn. Quarterback Quentin Flowers had a big day, throwing for a career-high 385 yards and 3 touchdowns on top of another 131 yards on the ground for 516 yards of total offense from the veteran signal caller. Houston jumped into the West Division's second position as the Cougars took a 52-27 win against ECU, with De'Aaron King making his first career start as a college quarterback, having a big day with 330 yards through the air and 3 touchdowns. Gardner Minshew came off the bench for the Pirates in the first quarter, going on to set an American Athletic Conference single-game record with 52 completions en route to his 463 yards and 3 touchdowns. Temple football had its best showing of the season as the Owls beat Navy 34-26 at Lincoln Financial Field. The Owls matched their season scoring high with 34 points behind a 4-touchdown performance by quarterback Frank Newtile. Adonis Jennings had 5 catches for 127 yards and 2 TDs, while the Temple defense held Navy to a season-low 136 rushing yards. Cincinnati is winless in conference play no more as the Bearcats picked up a road win in New Orleans by holding Tulane to a touchdown and 3 field goals in a 17-16 UC win that saw quarterback Hayden Moore throw for 248 yards. When the dust settled and the smoke cleared, the American ended up with 3 ranked teams in the latest polls. The UCF Knights climbed to number 14 and number 12 in the AP and coaches polls respectively, while the Memphis Tigers sit at number 20 and number 19. The USF Bulls are also in both top 25 polls at number 22 and number 21. I'm C. Austin Cox, and that's what's happening around the American Athletic Conference following Week 10 of the college football season. For more news about the American, you can catch me on the AAC Daily, airing Monday through Friday, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, noon Central, on BCSNN, iTunes, Spreaker, and the iHeartRadio app every weekday. Now back to Orlando with your host, Andrew Phegley and Trace Trylko on UCF Knightline.
All right, Knights in the pros. Blake Bortles, 24 of 38 for 259 yards and a touchdown in a win over the Bengals, 23-7. Brandon Alexander up in the Canadian Football League, playing for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers with his first interception and his first pick 6 on the same play. That was awesome to see him do that. He's a really, really good dude. And Brashad Perryman, 3 catches for 28 yards with the Ravens.
Taking a look at the week ahead in your Nightline planner. Volleyball back home against Tulane November 10th, 7 o'clock in the venue. Then November 12th at 1 o'clock when Houston comes to town. Rowing is at Alabama on November 11th.
And now, news and notes from the world of UCF sports. Women's soccer freshman Dina Orshman is the Americans Rookie of the Week for a league-leading 4th time.
Men's soccer has big momentum. 7-match unbeaten streak thanks to a 2-1 overtime win at Cincinnati, and that helped UCF finish second in the American. The Knights 4-2-1 in the league, 7-5-2 overall, and they're in the conference tournament now, so they're going to play number 3 seed UConn Friday. That's November 10th at 5:30 p.m. You can watch it on the American Digital Network. The winner faces the victor between number 4-seeded Temple and number 1-seeded SMU. Meantime, congrats to senior Matthias Pizzolo and junior Andreas Steiniger, the Americans' offensive and defensive players of the week.
Men's golf wins the Florida Gulf Coast Invitational, its second victory of the fall.
Volleyball loses 3-1 at ECU Sunday, swept Cincinnati Friday. UCF 6-8 in the American, 13-13 overall.
And finally, it was a week in which the black and gold faced off in baseball and softball. Black beats gold in baseball. Gold beats black in softball. Sounds like they're all winners to me.
How could you lose?
Oh, my
God. They're just playing against each other. How can you lose?
That's good stuff right there. This has been Nightline 129. I'm Andrew Phegley. He's
Chip Harris.
I'm Trace Trylko. Go Knights!
Charge on.